Good afternoon. It's Tuesday, November 6th. I'm Herman Green with your midday news. A special welcome if you're watching online at onespotmedia.com. We begin with the U.S. midterm elections. 2 years after the surprise election of Donald Trump to the presidency, voters are again set to render a verdict on the direction they want that country to take. With some countervailing political wins, enthusiasm for Democrats, but a deep love for the president in red states, many are withholding judgment on what the night will bring. The details from the CNN.
Put your partisan spit aside. It's game day midterm election in America. So after you go out and vote, keep an eye on these basic election benchmarks, because they'll help you keep the night's results in perspective. Always the thing we have least of. The first number is 37. It's the average number of House seats that a president's party loses in the midterms if he's below 50% approval. And Trump is way below 50% approval in the latest CNN poll, a historic low for a first term of 39%. And Democrats need 23 seats to gain control of the House. On the plus side for the president, unemployment is at a near 50-year low, and it would be a tsunami wave election if Republicans lose more than 63 seats, as Democrats did in 2010. But that's looking unlikely. Next up, 10. That's the number of Senate seats Democrats are defending in states that Trump won in 2016. They're trying to flip seats in red states like Arizona, Texas, and Tennessee. That's why, despite a razor-thin 59-49 balance power advantage for Republicans, it's an even steeper climb for Democrats. They've got to pitch a near-perfect game today to gain control of the Senate. Now, who will decide the closest races? Independent voters. So keep your eye on this number, 16%. That's the average swing of independent voters to the opposition party in the last three midterm elections, 2014, 2010, and 2016. Now, speaking of swing voters, 206. That's the number of so-called pivot counties that Trump won in 2016 that Obama had won twice before. Take a look at this map. That's the real battleground. And notice how they cluster around the upper Midwest, especially Iowa, Wisconsin, and Michigan. Democrats are making strong runs for governor in each of these states that voted for Trump. And while it's an annoying cliche to say that it all comes down to turnout, it's a cliche because it's true. So keep this final number in mind, 40%. That's the average turnout for eligible voters in the last three midterm elections, including the wave elections of 2006 and 2010. In 2014, midterm election turnout fell to 36.7%. That's a 40-year low.
Should be an interesting night. In news back home, we will not stop. The pledge of the Manchester police as they continue their fight to bring the killers of Corporal Melvin Smith to justice. TVJ's O'Shane Masters reports.
After a year, the Manchester police are still putting the pieces together to determine who killed Corporal Melvin Smith, who was attached to the Mandover police. Corporal Smith was shot dead in Manchester after he attempted to foil a robbery in the capital. Speaking at a recent memorial for the slain cop, head of the Manchester Police Division, Superintendent Wayne Cameron, said the death of Corporal Smith has strengthened their efforts to bring criminals to justice.
That result has spurred us to find and arrest people like Daniel Hyatt and Demar Scott. Daniel Hyatt is responsible for several rape incidents in this parish last year and this year. So Demar Scott is also responsible for several rape incidents in this parish last year and this year.
Demar Scott was also accused of raping two American tourists at gunpoint at the Rio Rega Hotel in St. James last month. He was subsequently charged. According to Superintendent Cameron, Scott was also positively identified in an identification parade in Manchester 2 weeks ago for at least one incident of rape. In the meantime, Superintendent Cameron says investigations are ongoing into the death of Corporal Smith.
So Mr. Kemar Bennett is before the Manchester Circuit for the murder of Corporal Smith. The second man was picked up in this incident, placed in an ID parade. The witnesses failed to point him out. However, I can assure you that the investigation surrounding that second man has not ended.
O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
Meanwhile, Superintendent Cameron has pointed to a reduction of crimes in the parish since the start of the year.
Overall reduction of about 27% in all crimes, 132 crimes less. We are seeing a reduction of 31% or 8 less rape incidents. 18 now, 26 it was last year. We have almost doubled the number of illegal firearms that we have seized in the parish since the start of this year in comparison to last year. We're at 16 at this time in comparison to 10 last year.
The quiet community of Bogan St Elizabeth was this morning the scene of a deadly shooting which left one man dead. The deceased has been identified as 34-year-old farmer Maurice Campbell of Bogue. It was reported that sometime after 1 o'clock, Mr. Campbell and his family were awakened by smoke as their house was on fire. They tried to exit the building through a back door, but were greeted with gunfire. Mr. Campbell was shot and killed at the scene. The gunman escaped. 4 members of the family, including a baby, were able to escape. Acting Assistant Superintendent Donald Clark of the St. Elizabeth Fire Department gave an update on the incident.
The estimated risk of the value of the property is 7 million and the estimated loss 4.5 million. Preliminary investigation is leaning towards foul play as the officer suspect that it was arson.
The Ministry of Health is highlighting that a number of persons who have been abandoned at public hospitals have mental health disorders. Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton says the issue of treating these individuals remains high on the government's agenda. TVJ Shamela Pullen reports.
According to the 2017 Mental Illness and Homelessness Report, mental illness is ranked among the most common non-communicable diseases in Jamaica. Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton says local experts are now saying some of the individuals who have been abandoned at public health facilities are also persons with mental health disorders.
Mental illness is a major problem in our society, as it is in the world. I mean, the report that I commissioned suggests that 4 out of every 10 Jamaicans at some point in their lives experience some level of mental instability, which is quite significant. A lot of persons on the streets are persons who have been abandoned, and in a number of cases they are linked to that.
In addition, Dr. Tufton says some of the other social cases in public hospitals are persons with chronic illnesses. He says the Ministry of Health has been collaborating with other ministries, including local government, to deal with the issue. Recently,
the St. Catherine, our Spanish Town municipality, unveiled a new block at their infirmary where we'll be moving patients out of Spanish Town into that infirmary. We're looking at doing a similar thing in Maypen, in Sav, in Westmoreland. I was the guest speaker at Local Government Month yesterday, and one of the things we spoke about and they unveiled was this dropping center, which Minister Mackenzie is very keen on.
Dr. Tufton says the issue of social cases at public hospitals continues to cost the government millions of dollars.
So we're doing a number of things to try and address homelessness, while recognizing that it is linked to a number of situations, but ultimately leading from abandonment, mental illness, and as a consequence, a dependence on the state. Unfortunately, too often on the hospital system, which takes away. Depending on the project, I mean, the Spanish Town case, we contributed, I think, 4 or 5 million. The local government contributed.
Shamela Pullen, TVJ News.
This afternoon, a push for areas suited for growing Irish potato to get into production. Manager for the Rural Agricultural Development Authority, RADA, in St. Elizabeth, Loxley Waite, made the call recently while updating farmers in the parish about plans to get into French fries production. TVJ's Krista Campbell has the details.
107 hectares of Irish potato already planted for the 2018-2019 season. But Rural Agricultural Development Authority, RADA manager for St. Elizabeth, Loxley Waite, says it will take 7 times that amount to meet the annual demand of £34 million. He says the country was able to meet 90% of that demand 2 years ago, but dropped to 82% of the national demand in the 2017-2018 season. He blames the massive drought in Manchester, which supplies 60% of the national demand, and excessive rainfall in Guys Hill, St Catherine, which supplies 30% of the demand island-wide. So now the RADA manager is encouraging other areas to get into Irish potato production.
Irish potato is a 12-week crop. It's a cool season crop. It's not going to do good in Portmore or on the plains of Clarendon or St. Catherine. But what I'm saying to the farmers up in the hill, take advantage of this crop, see what you can do, because it's a good income-generating crop.
He says farmers need to do land preparation at least 2 to 3 months before planting, and also
plant your potatoes 12 inches along the rows, and you make your rows 30 inches apart, and that will give you 17,000 plants per acre. The cost to produce 1 acre of Irish potato is $350,000. And if each plant bear, if 17,000 plants bear 1 pound each, you're looking at 17,000 pounds, and a lot of money.
And while the government tries to get more persons to plant Irish potatoes, RADA says it's continuing research into a byproduct. Mr. Waite says over the last 5 years, research has been done in the production of different varieties of French fries.
So far, we have tested 15 different varieties, planting them in different locations, different time of the year, and 4 varieties show promising results. So we plan to repeat our test this year, and based on that we can go forward.
Krista Campbell, TVJ News.
The narcotics police on Monday seized 300 pounds of ganja during an operation in St Elizabeth. It's reported that members of the narcotics division were conducting an operation in the community of Middlesex when they stumbled upon the ganja in bushes. No one was arrested. The police say they have made several major ganja seizures in many communities and along the coasts. However, they are concerned that the Marine Police and the JDF posts lack critical resources. It is suspected that the area is a major transshipment point for illegal guns and drugs. As the government moves ahead with plans to get into manufacturing with bamboo in Jamaica, Minister without portfolio in the Agriculture Ministry, J.C. Hutchinson, is insisting the move will have benefits outside the agriculture sector. Addressing farmers in St. Elizabeth recently, he explained that the industry will also address the issue of providing affordable housing.
If bamboo can make rail, if it can make bicycle, bamboo is making houses in other countries. And look out, we're coming here with bamboo houses.
And while he's pushing for the bamboo manufacturing plant to be set up in St. Elizabeth, where the popular Holland bamboo area is located, he explains that it will not be done in the town of Lacovia.
They are going to be doing bamboo pulp, and they have acquired 1,000 acres on the north coast to do that. I am just saying to you, no bamboo is going to be planted down in Lacovia. No bamboo. Can plant all the way up here in Newmarket, Woodlands, but not in Lacovia. You know why? Anyhow you plant it in Lacovia, God bless Holland bamboo. Holland bamboo would be gone.
We go down to news overseas. North Korea is talking tough again. One North Korean official says Pyongyang could resume building up its nuclear capabilities if the U.S. doesn't ease economic sanctions. The details from the CNN.
A very specific threat from a North Korean official has analysts worried. The threat came with a clear call for the U.S. to ease its sanctions against North Korea. If not, the country may resume building up nuclear forces, said a North Korean foreign ministry official on state television.
It does reflect their position. It also reflects the stance that they have, that they don't want to give up much.
This warning comes days before Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has scheduled a sit-down with his North Korean counterpart in New York.
North Korea always, before a meeting, tries to gain leverage by perhaps issuing threatening language or insinuating a threat. That said, we don't want to just dismiss it as negotiating rhetoric.
Analysts say North Korea could once again work on long-range missiles that may be able to reach the U.S.
If they do test, everything will come to a halt, and we're really back to where we were a year ago.
That's back to when there were talks about a possible U.S. missile strike against North Korea if Pyongyang didn't tone down its behavior. Another factor in this potential situation, Tuesday's midterm elections. Experts say North Korea is paying close attention.
They want to see how much the incumbent in the White House, does he have support? I think they're looking for whether President Trump gets weakened or not.
And we go now to news and sports. The West Indies went down by 71 runs to host India in the second T20 International a short while ago to go 2-0 down in the 3-match series. Chasing 196 to win, the Caribbean team was restricted to 124 for 9. Darren Bravo top scored with 23, while Kemo Paul added 20 and captain Carlos Brathwaite 15 not out. Bhuvneshwar Kumar, Khalil Ahmed, Jasprit Bumrah and Kuldeep Yadav all took 2 wickets each. Meanwhile, earlier, India posted a challenging 195 for 2 after being sent in to bat. Now, Rohit Sharma slammed an unbeaten 111 to shared in the 123-run opening stand with Shikhar Dhawan, who made 43 runs. Trinidadian Kerry Perry took 1 for 49 and Jamaica's Fabian Allen 1 for 33. The third and final T20 International will be held on Saturday in Chennai. And that wraps up the Midday News. I'm Herman Green. Of course, join us at 7 for the primetime news package. On behalf of the news, sports, and production teams, good afternoon.